It's a big change of lifestyle for dementia residents to acclimatise to living in dementia units. It takes a lot of strength, a lot of psychological and emotional strength to be able to adapt. And it depends to a certain extent how much the individual has had to adapt to certain situations in their life. Have they lived in different countries with different people, in different homes, in different neighbourhoods? If they have, then they'll have that expertise or experience of being able to adjust to different environments, or indeed different jobs in different countries. It all plays a part to being able to be flexible in new environments. And especially with dementia residents mostly being old, it's a big wrench to have to adjust to such a completely different environment, different routine, different meal schedules, different people. Everything about a dementia unit is utterly and absolutely different. But it's very different for everybody. That's the thing. It really is. I mean, some people actually adjust quite well. They acclimatise quite well. There was one dementia resident and she came into the unit. She was about 83. She was Alzheimer's. Her husband lived in the retirement village, so that helped. He visited regularly. But when she came in, the first thing she said was, "Oh, what a beautiful lounge. It's so well kept. You know, everyone's doing their job so well. It's pristine." And the first day she was saying, "Oh, we're so lucky to be here. All our meals are supplied. There's a lovely view. It's immaculate." And she never changed from that day. She never complained. Never complained, never stressed, never depressed. She found the environment like a hotel, first-class hotel for her. Everything was done for her. It was beautiful. It was immaculate. The meals were lovely, and she saw nothing to complain about. So that was her perspective, the cleanliness, and that everyone was doing their job as they were supposed to do. She was a school teacher from way back and had obviously been very one for routine, and she liked the fact that everyone kept to their task and was on time and everything got done well in an orderly way. Now, in terms of acclimatising, the men do find it difficult to acclimatise and adjust to dementia units. Really difficult, except those that have been in the army. They are incredible. They're better than anyone in terms of being able to adjust. There was one army general who lived at the unit, and he said, "Perfect here. All we need is a room, a bed and a clock. That's it." And do you know, that's pretty much all he had. He said, "Don't want any extra furniture. It just gets in the way, and we don't want to put stuff up on the walls because they're pristine, and we don't want to make marks on the walls." He just had one fold-up photograph of his wife, their wedding day, one side of the photograph, fold-up photograph, and on the other side, him in his 20s when he first went into the army. A brass clock, the bed that was supplied, 2 or 3 sets of clothes, 1 pair of shoes. That was it. Nothing else. And he didn't want anything else, because he said in the army, what you have to be able to do at any given point is quick, in a minute, put everything on your back and go. 23 years had been in the army. So he was used to being able to adjust to any situation in a moment, at a second's moment, you know, ever ready, so to speak. As the Boy Scout, he'd always used to say, Boy Scouts motto, "You've got to be prepared." And he always was. He had really imbibed that be prepared motto, because how I knew that was that in the mornings he used to have an hour's rest on his bed after breakfast. Whoever came into his room at any time, whenever he was resting, he'd wake up bright, chirpy, never complained. That, you know, other dementia residents, if you wake them up, if they're in the middle of a sleep, they're not going to say, "Good morning, dearie," but he would. I think he was just sleeping, not necessarily sleeping, but just resting with his eyes closed. The fact is, whether he was sleeping or whether he was not sleeping, still at any given moment, he was ever ready to say hello and jump out of bed if need be. So he said that it was heavenly living in a dementia unit compared to the army. 3 meals prepared, you've got the lovely carers, just like your mother's, doing everything for you, cleaning, vacuuming, making your bed. And he said they're lovely women and they're very friendly. And so for him, he had no complaints with the dementia unit. I mean, he said, of course, you've got to adjust. You've got to be able to accommodate. You've got to be able to get on with people, for sure. Living with 30 people and going to dinner, lunch and breakfast with a lot of them and 4 at your table, unless you can communicate with people, you're in a very stressful situation. And indeed, there are women at dementia units that do get frightened of crowds. And it may or may not be the dementia, but there were 2 or 3 women at the dementia unit where I was working that used to stay in their room pretty much all day. And 2 of the women said the reason they didn't like coming out of their room was because they were frightened. So whether it's claustrophobia or whether it's because they don't like being with people, maybe all their life they've never socialised much, even though they've had families. I know one dementia resident, she had quite a big family, 5 children, but one of the sons said to me that she never spent much time in the dining room talking to everyone. She preferred to be in the kitchen doing something or out on the farm, so she wasn't used to socialising. So when she came to the unit, same thing. Those social skills, though she had good social skills, she didn't enjoy talking to more than 1 or 2 people. So if you're like that, living in a dementia unit with 30 other people in a lounge all day, because dementia residents like to be in the lounge rather than their room, most of them. I mean, they're not sick, they're not unwell, they've only got a memory problem, and they like to socialise, and they like the activities and the TV, and they like to observe everything that's going on. So it's crowded, really crowded in that lounge area, especially when relatives come and visit, or there's medication rounds or doctor's rounds. Very different to a nursing home. When you go down there, it's often much, half the people are in their rooms. And certainly in a hospital, it's like that, where people are unwell. But in a dementia unit, there's heaps of people and they all love to be in the lounge. So it really does pay to be able to socialise with other people. It doesn't have to be all-out conversation, because obviously many dementia residents are limited in speech, but at least to smile, to be friendly, to have a nice countenance, warm expression. All of that's communication in a dementia unit. But you can't just sit there, shut off, shut down. You'll just become isolated. And some people do. If they can't warm to other dementia residents for whatever reason, some people think they shouldn't be there. Others are just isolated within their personality. Maybe they've never had much warmth or friendship in their life, or close relationships where they've had that warmth. And the odd resident did come in like that, who they'd been academics in their day. A couple of women had been academics in their day, very intelligent, did the crosswords, up on everything, poor memory, but they never acclimatised. They didn't acclimatise, or one did actually in part acclimatise with the group, but the other woman, who was a university lecturer in English or something like that, she'd come to the workshops, but she'd never communicate or join in. She just listened. She wouldn't join in. She didn't allow the warmth extended to her from others to reach her. She just stiff up her lip, poker face all day, and she just wouldn't relax or soften or let the warmth in. And so she was isolated as a result of that and didn't acclimatise. The other woman, the other university lecturer, she was warmer with the group, and she helped the group, and she, was a bit of a leader of the group in the end, and she did relax and acclimatise to the unit, but the other woman wasn't able to do that, sadly. So I've written these 2 books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, on Amazon, and thank you for your likes and your subscriptions. please pass on the links.